In 2012, I went back to the Canton League of Women Voters, where I was a member for 28 years. I served as president and most other aspects of the board. I spoke to their annual meeting, bragging on the four political things about Arizona that makes Arizona superior to many and probably most states in the United States. The first thing was an initiative that passed as a referendum in 1974, sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Arizona, that set up a system of the merit selection of judges. This provided an alternative in the larger counties, a way that judges did not have to run for election and be funded by lawyers who might appear before them in some future time, which was a major conflict of interest. This initiative passed. In 1992, the League of Arizona also sponsored a second initiative referendum that judges have to be retained after the first 4 years they served. This Judicial Performance Review Commission evaluates them as to how good a judge they have been for 4 years. There's a survey sent to everyone who appears before them. There are other ways the members of the commission, many of whom are league members, by the way, they talk to the judges, interview them, and set up an evaluation system that decides, have they been a good enough judge to be retained for the next 4 years? The Judicial Performance Review Commission judges, gives them a grade. I'm a teacher, I love giving grades. Gives grades, and if they have a poor performance, the grade is low, and someone would say to this judge, you really should not run for retention. You've not done a good job. We will give you a poor grade in our judgment, and you shouldn't. Say if a judge gets an 80 or above, they are worthy of being retained. If it's below 80, they are not. It is in the Secretary of State's booklet. Look at it. It's at the end, and it's an easy way of knowing whether you should say yes or no for someone you don't know, because you know what these people, and they are not partisan. They're not specifically chosen for their partisanship or lack thereof. No one should skip the judges, because obviously it is an important job. But the league was responsible for the entire process over several years, and the work of a lot of league members.
So that's two of the things that you think are really important that the league.
Clean elections is the next one.
Okay.
And clean elections was the first initiative referendum that I encountered when I joined the League of Women Voters of Northwest Maricopa County in October of 1998. It was on the ballot, and I learned about this proposition. I moved to Arizona at the end of September, learned from my first league meeting in Arizona from Lila Schwartz, who had actually participated in the writing of the Clean Elections Initiative, along with Carol Mattoon, who's standing in front of you, and Marge Mead, who was a fantastic lobbyist during most of my time in Arizona. Clean Elections provides money for people who are willing to run if they can collect a small amount of money from a whole bunch of people, and then they are given enough money to run a statewide election or a district election. It's on state offices only. It means that you don't have to be beholden to people with deep pockets, And the state legislature didn't like that. Every year since it passed in 1998, the state legislature has done damage to it, a little bit at a time. Seems to be the first go round, a lot of very interesting people ran who wouldn't have run if they'd had to collect a lot of money from other people. But there were people, it broadened the number of people who could participate in state elections. The league, our own league, Northwest Maricopa County, was responsible for a lot of the signatures. Carol Mattoon was in charge of that, and she and Marge promoted the signature gathering, and our league was responsible for a lot of signatures. I don't know how many, but a lot of them. Probably would not have passed without us and our lobbying for, people, our explanation of why people should vote for it, as the first meeting I had in Arizona. There was an episode, some of you have just learned about RTS, and that allows you to tell the legislators what you think about bills today. At any rate, there was a year where a committee had before it some really bad to do some damage. The state league and our local league put on a full court press asking everyone who had a computer to send an email to as many of those committee members as they could or were willing to do. And we changed the minds of every person on the committee except the chair. And I thought that was really interesting, that the league can make a difference. There are other occasions where we've made a difference as well, but this one sticks in my mind because of how much it did. And I think that was a lot. Redistricting was passed in 2000. The state league did promote the idea of an independent redistricting commission. It is one of probably half a dozen, Arizona is one of perhaps half a dozen states that have such a one. California, where I am now, also has one. The independent redistricting commission is made up of 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats, and it is chaired by a person who's not affiliated with a party, nonpartisan person. There are people who have a mission to draw lines in a rational way instead of a crazy partisan way like a lot of legislatures do. They go around the state and they talk to people, ordinary people like you and me, and they have ideas and they draw the lines and they send out their maps, and then they get criticism, and then they go and talk to people some more, and they try really hard not to be overly partisan. They are less, the lines are less partisan than the state legislature would do it. I have full confidence in that. And I remember the party that the state league gave to the members of the first independent redistricting commission. And we really promoted this. And this is a good government thing.